all about humanity. About It's all about humanity.
So I'm definitely a fan of like old school kung fu theater.
I love it, man.
Yeah, like the Five Deadly Venoms and all that kind of crap. So I had to make an intro that reflected that. Yeah, because my other love is Godzilla. You know,
Oh,
so
man.
the old intro was all Godzilla.
We're kindred spirits, man. I cried at that Godzilla movie where the baby Godzilla and Godzilla are like on the island and it's starting to snow. I don't know if you remember that. Like Son of Godzilla. It was
was that with the shitty looking Godzuki, or was it?
I think so. Yeah.
The one that looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
You blow little rings and
I remember that one. That's way, yeah, dude. Like even the really shitty Godzilla movies, like I fucking love them, dude. Those are awesome. You know what I'm saying? I'd almost take those over the newer ones coming out now.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah. Like I used to put them on while I draw, you know, just because I've seen them a million times. So it's not like I'm going to keep glancing up and wanting to see what's going on. You know?
Did you collect any Godzilla memorabilia, like toys or?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like in my office, I got a whole like shelf full of the Japanese or Chinese, whatever it is, the fully articulated, like the toys, you know. And these things weren't cheap either, too, dude. Fucking expensive, yeah. So of course, I never bought them. I just made sure to add it to my Christmas list.
Yeah, nice.
So anyway, all right, let's say hello to the chat. We got Hex Harper, we got Candace B, Maiden Hell, Rick Sailor. Rick Sailor. We got Don Shen in the chat. We got Billy Basco. And of course Doc Salem. So I'm going to do something I normally don't do. I'm going to keep my mouth shut while we're having a conversation, because one thing I have to say is that I first met you on Ethan's stream. You know, we were both on the same stream, but you majorly downplayed your significance in indie comics, like majorly, because all you mentioned was black belt, you know, radioactive adolescent black belt hamsters.
Yeah.
You never really got into detail about all of the other stuff that you were part of, you know, back in the day. I mean, because after like when you contacted me, it was like, hey, can I get a spot on your channel? I was like, fuck yeah, you can. You know? Anybody who creates the hamsters, get a spot on. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
But I did a dive on you on Comics Vine to see all the different things that you've worked on, and it's pretty. You got a pretty good resume. Yeah. I mean, Stargate. The TV adaptation of Stargate, I guess.
The movie.
Yeah, Enchanted. Enchanted. Zen, Nera.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go. I mean, it just goes on and on. Captain Nauticus.
Yeah.
And then a host of parody comics too, like Cyberfarce. Yeah. And also you worked on something else that's pretty interesting. Like you worked on Megaton, right?
Yeah.
And yeah. So
I loved your graphic you did for me. And the picture is much better than the scruffy one I sent you, you know, the first time.
I thought it was funny. That's why I threw it up there. I was like, this fits. Like,
you could show people your first draft. It would be hilarious.
I did it because I thought, I was like, anybody who creates like X-Farce deserves to get like the coolest.
Yeah.
And also your current project. Let's not forget that. That's X-Farce. And this is your second go around with X-Farce too, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's true. X-Farce came out in '92. This is actually the original book is from Eclipse Comics.
Hold on one second. Let's see here. Boom.
So this was a black and white parody that it sold great. It sold like I think around 70,000 copies.
And that's a pretty good label you had it under too. Like Eclipse actually put out a pretty good bit of like really interesting content. Like they did fucking
Miracle Man, Rocketeer.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, Miracle Man. They did a bunch of stuff. I mean, they put out a lot of horror comics. Also, Mr. Monster.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I saw your campaign page, I said this feels a lot like Mr. Monster.
I like Mr. Monster. I'm a fan of it. Everybody, like when I put out Doc Salem, everybody was like, "You're ripping off Mr. Monster." I was like, and then they named the guy who created Mr. Monster. I was like, well, he didn't really create Mr. Monster. I was like, the guy who created Mr. Monster, like Mr. Monster was created in 1930s. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, he just took that character and repurposed it. You know? And I was like, but I'm a fan of that. Like I'm a fan of all those like quirky like horror comics and shit like that. I thought they were pretty cool, like especially the horror superheroes. But you know what? Enough about Doc Salem, enough about me, Mr. Monster, Eclipse, all that crap. Talk to me. Tell me how you got started.
Yeah.
I
was as a young kid, my parents owned a restaurant and they long hours in a restaurant, and so they just kind of thought of things to keep me occupied. So they would buy me comic books, and most of them were kind of like your Harvey, Charlton, funny animal stuff. So I guess I was kind of introduced to funny animals at a young age, and it kind of taught me how to read, which was nice. But that kind of segued into comic strips, and I was really into Peanuts, by Charles Schultz. And but as I got older, my tastes were more refined, and I kind of grew out of the funny animals, and I started liking superheroes, probably a lot like you did. And Marvel, mainly Marvel stuff, but I also like DC. But then I started to get full on into collecting as a teenager. And I remember before we got on the show, you were kind of talking about buying comics on the black market at your school and reading them and stuff. And
that's good that you said that. Like you're also a comic collector, because I was surprised to learn how many people actually do comics that aren't collectors. Like they're turned off by the idea of collecting comics. And that's so weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Like I couldn't, like the whole reason I wanted to do comics wasn't because of the money. It was because it's something I love doing, well, I love to collect. And I was like, I loved it so much that I wanted to do it,
Yeah. Well, you're good at it, man. You've got a good future ahead of you.
Oh, thank you.
By the way, I think you got nominated for Critical Blast Award. Is that correct?
Wait, what's that?
Didn't you get nominated for a Critical Blast comic book award? Did you not know that?
No, I had no idea.
You got you know who Critical Blast is?
No, I don't know.
Oh, really? You got nominated?
I got to check that out. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's got a streaming show pretty much every day. His name is RJ, and he had
is that the guy? Like he does the idea of hero. Like he's like, this is RJ enough, and
yeah, his name's RJ. He's kind of middle-aged and streams from his basement, but he's real consistent on his streams. And he did an end of the year kind of 2020 award show, and I'm pretty sure I saw your title.
Get out of here, dude. That's fucking awesome. I have to check that out, because I like his show if it's the same guy we're thinking about, because he's like, he doesn't like modern comics, and he doesn't like modern comics because they're destroying the idea of hero. You know what I'm saying? Like
I don't think that's the same RJ, because RJ seems to like modern. So we'll talk out. I'll send you a link after we get done, and I'll try to find that show.
Okay, cool.
So where were we at? High school, I guess?
Yes.
Yeah. So I got into a cartooning class, Preston, or do I call you Doc or Preston? I'm not sure.
Preston will work. Either way, Nicky the Pipe. I don't give a shit.
By the way, your hat. It's so rocking.
Thanks. Yeah, I got this in on my honeymoon, and my wife hated it. She freaking hated it. So I kept it, of course.
Nice.
Bust it out every now and then.
So my friends and I started to want to do comic books. So we just kind of did little fanzines that you'd staple, 8.5 by 11 copied paper, and you distribute them into the high school, and it's pretty G-rated. But then my friends and I started to get into underground comic books, like Heavy Metal magazine was kind of a really big one, and I live up in Northern California, and it's kind of famous for pot. There was like some head shops that I wasn't really a big partaker in that stuff, but I liked, for some reason, I went into this head shop, and they had the spinner rack, but the comics were definitely not for kids. They were more like Robert.
Oh, you dove into the into the alternative comics. Is what
the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers.
I actually got a couple of those.
Do you? Okay, so you kind of know where I'm coming from. Not exactly Marvel.
Show. There's a YouTube show about the Fabulous. It's animated episodes of the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers.
Yeah,
and John Goodman does the voice of one of them on there.
Wow, that'd be perfect. I heard they're doing a live action version with like.
Get out!
Yeah, yeah. I think they're doing a live action Furry Freak Brothers.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So my roots were kind of weird, because I started off all innocent, and then heavy metal was kind of, I'd have to say that one of the reasons I liked it was because it showed like some nudity.
That's why everybody liked it. Unfortunately, they've dropped that aspect of heavy metal.
Right. So I'm just being honest with you folks. I know on most of my streams I'm pretty squeaky clean, but I have.
Were your heavy metal magazines kind of stuck together? Was it hard to read them? Because
oh man. I'm not answering that.
Take the fifth.
So anyways, we got inspired by heavy metal, so we wanted to do something a little more edgy. So my friends and I said, let's do our own book called Overload, because we had sent our stuff into these publishers and we got rejected. Because when you're in high school, you're all cocky and you think you're the best, and and then you send your stuff in and you get a rejection letter, and then you go, what's wrong with these guys? And then
do they know who they're turning down?
Yeah. Then 20 years later, you look at what you sent to them, and then you go, oh my God, what was I thinking sending them this real bad, stuff? So, long story short, Preston, we did 5 issues of a magazine called Overload, and it started off like black and white covers, but by the 5th issue,
oh shit! You still have copies of it?
Yeah, I still have just a few. I mean, we only printed, maybe 1,000 per run, and it was mainly distributed up here in my area. But by the 3rd,
we got to talk after this is all over with, because I'm probably going to have to get one of those.
Yeah, it was fun. And then we started getting better artists, and people started sending us submissions. So it started off kind of like a Northern California homegrown comic book. And then by the 5th issue, we had contributions from, all over the United States.
That's freaking amazing. Like, how many issues did you guys get out?
5.
Nice. Oh, okay. So it stopped at 5.
Yeah, it stopped at 5. And then, my dad was kind of footing the bill, and it really wasn't making money. It was more of a, try to learn what it's like to publish. So that was kind of my intro to self-publishing. And I did a few like little mini underground comics here and there, but kind of the thing that launched my career. Well, the first published thing I ever got. Did you used to read Cracked?
I did, actually. But it wasn't like a collected crack. It was that crack always found its way to me. You know what I'm saying?
Or maybe they were sold out of Mad, so you had to settle for Cracked, right?
Yeah. Or you'd be by somebody's house and they'd just have like crack laying on, not the type you smoke. I'm talking about crack.
Right. So I loved Cracked, and so I started sending in ideas to them as like 1983. So how old was I? I was about 20 years old, and I finally got published. So this issue number 200 back in 1983. Is the very first thing I ever got.
Now, Don, do you write exclusively, or do you also do the artwork too?
I am a cartoonist, but I'm not nearly as good as guys like you. I'm kind of known more for writing and editing, but I've been trying to go outside my bubble, Preston. And have you ever been on any of those drawing shows where they have you draw a topic and then after the end of like a couple hours, they'll judge them and kind of give you prizes if you win, like drawn and quartered?
Yeah, but I thought there wasn't really a lot of prizes involved in that. I think it was more like
prestige, the honor.
Yeah, and it was to get sales too, like to show what you could do so people can pitch your stuff and
or commissions.
So, I'll be honest, I hate being put on a spot like that. Like
I know it makes you.
The pressure is just like, oh.
I thought I was kind of hanging out with Mike S. Miller on his channel, and he invited me to come to his stream like about a month ago. So I just sat in and watched the artists do their thing. And for some strange reason, at the end of the night, even though I didn't draw anything, they gave me first place. And it was really funny, because I beat everybody without submitting anything. So I thought, gosh, I really would like to get back into at least practicing that side of my brain. So I got my courage up and I went on the show and I said, I'm gonna try to compete with these guys. And so the last 3 weeks I've been doing this show, which I think there's one tonight, but I'm gonna miss it because I'd rather hang out with you. But so the last few weeks I've been kind of hovering around the bottom. There's like 7 different artists and they vote, and I might get a few votes. But last week they said we're gonna drop a character called PewDiePie. Do you know who PewDiePie is?
Oh, that's the YouTube guy, right?
Right. And I had no idea who he was. And so they only announced the topic like about 15 minutes before the actual show goes on, so nobody can get a head start. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and try to draw PewDiePie. So I just Googled him and I saw him. He looks like a kind of like a nice looking Swedish dude that does game reviews, So, here we go, an hour and a half drawing into the show. And I don't have one of those cameras where you can show your board where you're drawing like other people do. I was just kind of drawing on a sketch pad. So at the end of the contest, I held up what I did. So I came up with PewDiePie.
God damn it. All right, there we go.
So, so he's basically Popeye, but with some facial hair and the YouTube logo and some headphones. That's
pretty badass. You're not a bad cartoonist. Like
thanks, buddy. So I got second place on that. So I guess, I just wanted to show people, I'm not a total incompetent artist. But
let me ask you a question. Like, what came after? Like you kind of went into the story a little bit on Ethan's show about black belt hamsters, right? Like Ninja Turtles hit, and you were like, well, shit, if they can do it, I can do it. So you went
right,
hamsters, right? I mean, is that pretty much how that went down, or?
I was in college, and I had opened up a comic book store, and at that time the Turtles were just starting to kind of get some steam going, and I would try to order the Turtles books from whoever I can get them from, but they were just flying off the shelves and they were doing multiple printings and everybody was talking about this book. So I eventually got some in and I looked at it and I said, this artwork style looks a lot like my friend Parsonovich, who was in that cartooning class and did Overload magazine. And I thought, we could do something that's kind of like this. And so during a biology class in college, I was just doodling and I came up with the Adolescent Radioactive Black Belt Hamsters. So I wrote that down and I showed him my little sketches to Parsonovich, and we crafted a 31-page story that we submitted to Eclipse, and Eclipse said, well, we'll publish it. And I think they were blown away that it sold as well as it did. I mean, we sold like 500,000 copies of it worldwide. Yeah, and
You guys walked off like bandits with
all right. Yeah, I had enough to to put a down payment on my first house after the first issue, and so that was fun. And we did like 9 issues of the regular series, but Parsanovich had to leave after a few issues because he couldn't keep up with the the rigors of doing a regular book. So then Sam Keith stepped in, so I got to work with Sam.
That's amazing.
It was yeah, his first penciled gig was on as a regular artist was on the Hamsters. So I got to work with some pretty thanks Hex. So I got to work with him, and then Eclipse did some 3D comics. So all told, there's about 20 Eclipse Hamsters titles, and then Dynamite reached out to me in the early 2000s and said we'd like to bring them back. So Nick did a mini series like in 2007, I think, and it didn't really go that great, but they still own the license. And so I said, I wonder if Ethan might consider like a Cyberfrog crossover. And it took him like 2 years to basically let me know he wanted to do it from the time that I approached him. And that was last year. So everything looked like all systems go to do the Hamsters Cyberfrog one shot. And I had written the 40-page story, and EJ Morges and Kenan White were supposed to be the art team on it. And then, unfortunately, they had that big Comicsgate fiasco with the Cecil cover on on one of the Dynamite campaigns, and then all the people that worked for Dynamite were kind of giving Nick a hard time, so he had to bail on that, and then that kind of caused, unfortunately, Ethan and Nick to not be wanting to work together.
So you're saying this got buried because of the politics, like the
pretty much, yeah.
Huh?
Bad, huh?
I try to stay away from all that, like all the political bullshit that goes on. My philosophy is keep true to working, keep your head down, work on your IPs, because in a year, the drama, nobody's going to remember the drama. You know what I'm saying?
You're right, man. I hope everybody will be able to mend their disagreements, because it was sad, because I just, it was kind of like getting the wind knocked out of you.
Do you want to bring the Hamsters back? Because I'd be down to talking to you about that.
Yeah, I really do. I've got some ideas for some one shots and miniseries, and but I've got a couple books in the can. One is X-Farce, the other one's called Beard Zerker. So those I need to get done, and then I can maybe concentrate on seeing if we might want to do something with the Hamsters again.
Did are you do you own the rights to the Hamsters, like exclusively, or?
No, I don't. I when Nick came to me in the early 2000s, he said I'd like to buy the intellectual property. So we had a deal where over a course of time he would pay me, and then eventually it would become his. So it's all Dynamite's, and I've asked him, would you consider maybe selling it back, and he said not at this time, and I respect that, because I know it's got a lot of potential to be a kind of a Turtles type of thing, but at this
I that sucks. Like there's so many properties that die because they get eaten up by corporations. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things that made me so sad when like Marvel sold out to DC, and not sold out to DC, but sold out to Disney. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because Disney's famous for like they're a meat grinder when it comes to IPs. But okay, so after the Hamsters, like you moved on, and that's what I'm saying. Like your resume got pretty big after a while. I mean, for instance,
the people that I work with, I mean, I was really blessed. The other book that I did with Eclipse before we started our own company, a book called Enchanter, is kind of a fantasy, black and white, really cool artwork. But that artist was Mike Drigenberg. So Drigenberg and Keith, after they got done working with me, got hired by DC to do Sandman with Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's kind of that's actually not by Mike, but that's one of the issues that we did after we left Eclipse. But actually, I don't know if you read. Do you read comic strips like web comics or anything?
I don't do web comics.
Have you heard of Sinfest before?
Sinfest?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
It's pretty well known. I mean, it's kind of a it's almost like Calvin and Hobbes meets. It's kind of an R-rated Calvin and Hobbes, if you can imagine that. But Tatsuya Ishida is the artist on what you're showing right now, and he went on to do like G.I. Joe and actually Godzilla for Dark Horse after he worked with me. But this is one of his covers, and
I love that cover.
Yeah, Tatsuya is a great artist. But I just wanted to say it was amazing to work with both Sam and Mike, and then after that, you know, they got really big working with Neil Gaiman on creating Sandman. So yeah, I was kind of like, I guess, honing their skills, and then they go off.
One thing I want to ask you about, because Zen, the Intergalactic Ninja, I remember seeing that book around a lot when I was a teenager, you know.
Yeah.
And one thing about it is, I mean, I'm looking at this cover right here. Let me pull it up. And I mean, you got Jay Lee doing a cover for Zen. You know what I'm saying?
Pretty sweet, huh?
It is. It's awesome. But everything I heard about, like, I was never really interested in Zen because I thought the character, no, I'm not trying to be offensive or anything like that, but I just thought it was kind of generic, you know? But I thought it was a cool concept. But later on, like nowadays, what I'm hearing, like I also watch like other shows, like there's a show out right now where they review comics and stuff like that. And they're saying that Zen was actually a corporate money grab at the time during the night when the 90s were exploding, and there was like a speculator boom, you know, and stuff like that. Can you shed, like, is any of that true, or was it?
Well, the way that Zen happened was that Steve Stern and Dan Cody, the original Zen guys, I think in the late 70s, early 80s, they were a couple guys up in Maine, and they just started to do their own comic book, kind of like what I did with Overload, but on the East Coast. And so Zen caught the attention of Mark Friedman, the guy behind Surge Licensing, who was the Turtles guy. So before Friedman came along, you know, Eastman and Laird were doing fine, I'm sure, in comics, but it was Friedman who had all the ties to merchandising. So that's why you saw pretty much the Turtles on everything you could think of. You know, that's where the money is by getting licensing deals.
Yeah.
And toys. And I mean, the three things that you need are a toy deal, you know, either a cartoon series and then your comic book. And if you have those three things, you can kind of springboard from there into who knows, you know.
Well, from everything I heard, the Turtles guys, like, they were extremely lucky because they had the right person to go to at the right time. Like, when they hit, they know exactly who to go to, because if they wouldn't have had that person on hand, like, they would have known, like, they wouldn't have known what to do with their as far as they wouldn't have known their rights as far as merchandising or anything like that, and would have gotten ripped off like easily.
Probably, yeah.
And
I don't know who found who in that relationship. I have a feeling that Friedman, he's pretty savvy, so he probably saw that this was a hot comic book property, and I need to reach out to these guys and see if I can work with them. So anyway, Zen kind of went to Archie comic books during the Surge period. So Zen had his Nintendo game, which is actually very sought after.
Get out of here. They had a Nintendo game for Zen?
Oh, it was fun. Yeah, Nintendo.
I never knew that. That's amazing.
I've seen a slabbed, unopened copy for like thousands of dollars on eBay.
No way. Jesus.
Yeah,
Christ,
it's a fun game. You know, even for a little 8-bit game, it was actually pretty challenging. A lot of people look at that as one of the harder games for the NES.
So this wasn't a corporate money grab. This was actual two creators that just came together and came up with an idea.
Yeah, I would say, you know, after the license ran out with Archie, Steve Stern found us. So he said, would you like to publish then? And we said, oh yeah, man, because it had some recognition. So Parody Press was already going at that time, Preston, in the early 90s. So we thought, well, it wouldn't make sense to have a superhero title with the Parody Press imprint. So we created Entity Comics, and we did, probably 30 or 40 different issues of Zen over the next, 5-6 years, including the Jay Lee cover, which memory serves me right, we probably sold like 70,000 copies of that, which is
that was low at the time too, right?
For a Chromium book. Yeah, I mean, if you could sell anywhere from like 60 to 100,000, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm talking because at that time, that was during the 90s, and
right, Lifeform
and
Image, those guys were just hundreds of thousands of copies.
Yeah, they were just raking in money. They were like, pull a truck in the back and empty it in our pool.
Yeah, and we were just kind of getting their little table scraps as the small.
That was a hell of a table scrap you guys are getting.
Yeah, compared to what we print these days with crowdfunding, 10,000 that's kind of like what Ethan probably does right now, and he's doing great.
He's doing fantastic. Now here's another thing too, and this is something I didn't. Like I said, you downplayed your role as far as as far as your presence in comics, big time on Ethan's show. And I didn't know that you were a co-founder of Entity Comics. Is that right? And isn't Entity like the first appearance of Lady Death and Evil Ernie and all of those?
That's Chaos.
No, I've got a. I'm sorry, it's Eternity. Oops. Okay, well, either way,
that's an honest mistake, dude. Zen was kind of like our flagship title, and then Nira X, she was like a bad girl. We did Snowman, actually. That's one thing.
That's what I was about to say, Snowman, because Matt Martin has
he's resurfaced. Yeah,
he came back, and
resurfaced again, and Matt. Everybody thought he was going to be the next Todd McFarlane, and
he was I collected Matt's work because there was so much passion in it at the time when he was with Harley Heroes.
Right.
And Matt was it wasn't just that, like there was real talent there. You know what I'm saying? And I could see it. I was like, this guy's incredible, and the way he talked about his work, and he was obviously he was in love with Todd's style,
Right.
And he studied Todd, and you could tell he studied Todd's style over and over again. But Matt's style hasn't really, it's grown from what it was back then, but it hasn't really, he hasn't changed his style. Like his style is better, but it's still the same style. And I like that. I think that's really cool. But you were editor on Snowman 1944, right?
Yeah, we did a few Snowman books, and I had kind of heard that Matt was up and coming, so somehow I tracked him down in Indiana, and at that time, his friend Trent Kanuga was taken off with Creed for Lightning, and then Ethan had his deal with Cyberfrog for Harris. So I said, I better jump on the bandwagon and see if I can work with Matt. And we kind of had a our faith was in common because we're both Christians, and he did a Spawn homage called Vortex.
Yeah,
basically his take on what if Spawn was like working for God rather than for the devil. And so I think that kind of gave us an affinity towards working together because there was a trust involved. And so Matt did all sorts of work for Entity. He did work with Nira X and Bill Mouse, but I always thought Snowman was going to really take off. And we actually got who Dino De Laurentiis is, right? The guy that produced King Kong and he's a big movie producer, like Conan the Barbarian he produced. And so anyways, he called me after he saw Snowman in one of our other books, and he says, I'd like to get the licensing rights for that. And I always thought Snowman would have made a great movie, even if it was back in the 90s. But a lot of those licensing deals, they they give you some money up front and then they just hang on to it for years.
I know that's one thing. Like I've known people who did a licensing deal, and it was like it sounds good, right? It's like, yeah, my stuff's like is optioned by HBO, you know, and I'm like I'm like, oh, that's phenomenal. I was like, how much did you get? And they're like, $3K, but like they got it for 3 years, so they can do whatever they want with it for 3 years. But most of the time, what they do is they just sit on it. You know what I'm saying? And they do absolutely nothing with the property. And that's one thing I don't like. Like I've swore like I wouldn't do that. Like, because I don't want to see something die on a vine for a lot can change in 3 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's yeah. I mean,
$3,000 isn't enough to sit back and say, well, I hope they do something with it. You know?
In hindsight, Preston, when the Hamsters was hot, we got a call from Rankin Bass. They did like the original Rudolph, Christmas stories, and then they did The Hobbit. They did an adaptation of.
Oh my God, that's amazing! Yeah, I love that show.
And so they reached out to Eclipse and they said, there's a handful of your titles that we'd like to do animation options on. And so, it was really paltry. It was like maybe 1,000 at the time. And it tied it up for like 10, they had like a 10-year rights to it. And so
10 years.
Yeah, it was a long, yeah, it was a long amount. And then unfortunately, just a few years later, they had to go into bankruptcy. So it was just in this limbo of legality. So the Hamsters never really got to be shopped during, the time the Ninja Turtles was.
Well, I heard that's also a tactic used by studios to kind of bury a project that may compete with one of their more successful projects. You know what I'm saying? So what they do is they option it, and then they just, because it's nothing for them to spend $1 or $3K on something. It's
shady tactics, man.
Yeah. But what attracted me to Matt's work was Vortex. Like that's a piece I did for Matt when he came back.
Oh, really? Awesome, man.
I was hoping he would come back with Vortex, but he didn't. Like he did Snowman. And to be honest, I was never really a huge fan of Snowman. Like I thought it was a cool concept. It just never vibed with me. Like, just not every character is gonna, do that. But I was always a fan of Vortex. Like I thought it was a really interesting take. And of course it was a copy of Spawn, but it wasn't like it was another take on Spawn. Like it wasn't a direct ripoff or anything like that. I never seen it as that. Yeah.
Is this for his digital Vortex that he was like doing some kind of crowdfunding thing earlier, like last year, and it was like Vortex digital?
No, this is for nothing. This was just a piece of fan art. I mean, I gave it to him. I was like, dude, do whatever.
Oh man, did he like it?
Yeah, he liked it. It turned out really cool. But yeah, I was hoping like because I knew he was coming back. Like I know he was going to come back, and Ethan was going to give him a push because they're buddies from Hall of Heroes. You know what I'm saying? And I was hoping that if he did come back, like he would come back with Vortex instead of Snowman, because Snowman, he had a good run with Snowman, but I just always liked Vortex.
You would do an awesome Vortex. I mean, maybe Matt will, just do his thing with Snowman, and then I wouldn't put it past him to bring it back, because I think, he reached out. I reached out to him on Twitter. I hadn't been in touch with him for a while, but when I started to get back into self-publishing, I thought, it'd be nice to touch base with him. So I reached out to him, and he asked me, "Do you still have any of the Vortex digital files?" Because we did a reprint of Vortex in color, because it was.
I have one of those.
Yeah, so we did Vortex, and then it was called like Vortex: The Second Coming. So we digitally colored it, but I always thought Vortex would be, I think if he brought it back again, people would receive it well.
Let's okay, Don, how did you come across this? How did you pull that off?
Okay, so I was at San Diego Con, and Entity Comics was starting to get a name for itself. I mean, we had like a Jay Lee cover, and we were getting some professional people doing some work for us. So this guy comes up to me, and he's kind of dressed like a casual San Diegan, in the middle of summer with polo shirt and probably shorts and stuff. And he goes, "Hey, my name's Rand, and I represent MGM Studios. I'm working for licensing their properties, and we have this movie coming out called Stargate with Kurt Russell and James Spader. And my wife and I think we had already seen it. It was kind of out, in the theaters, and we loved it. I mean, we didn't pursue it. It came to us because he basically said, would you be interested in this one? I think James Bond was also available, but you had to kind of pay them up front, like an advance. And I think the advance for Stargate for a small company like us was more affordable than like James Bond.
Did they know Stargate was going to be the hit that it became, or?
I don't know if they did, but I think they just said, to keep the fan interest in the property alive, it would be good to do a comic book, but we don't have the resources to do it. So we'll just sub it out. So thankfully, they agreed to do Stargate with us. And so we were the official first company to get that comic book license with Entity. So we adapted the movie in 4 issues, and then we did a few other like miniseries and one shots. I wanted to show you something, the person that was kind of cool. Do you watch Stargate? I mean, have you watched all the?
My parents were a big fan. Like, they never missed an episode. Like, they were like, all over it. And
SG-1 or Atlantis, or
I was a fan of the movies, and I was a fan of the movie, and then they put out something really, really dark, and it was like, I can't remember what it was called, but it was Stargate, and they were like stuck on this spaceship going.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That was a little. I agree. It was a little dismal, but
I liked it. I was like, this is evil as fuck, dude. And I was like, this is great. Like, I don't know. But from what I understand, like, the fans of Stargate hated that television show. Like, they really just despised it.
Yeah. I was online and on eBay, and someone said, "Hey, I've got this issue of Stargate, and it's signed by Ben Browder." Ben Browder he came on SG-1 later, but most people know Ben Browder from Farscape. I don't know if you watch Farscape.
Oh, dude, I was a huge fan of Farscape.
Yeah. So Ben Browder is John Crichton. So I picked this up for like $10, and
that's amazing.
It's my Stargate issue, but signed by Ben Browder.
That's phenomenal. Stargate. I mean, yeah, like for some reason I just couldn't get into it, but yeah, like yeah, but Ben Browder, I was a huge fan of his. Like, I thought that was the greatest show ever on, because it had Jim Henson Muppets and all that kind of stuff. I was like, this is phenomenal, dude. I was like, this is great. And then it got yanked off the air. And from what I heard, it was because of budget concerns. Like
I think it was costing them too much money. And we were such fans that we reached out to Virginia Hay, who played Zahn, the alien with the bald head, the blue
chick. Yeah.
And we reached out to her, and we said, "Hey, can we help you, like, maybe sell some of your stuff on eBay?" And so we developed a relationship with Virginia Hay, and she would send us autographed items to put on eBay, and we would give her a cut. But she said, "I have a prop that you might be interested in." And it was a little miniature figure that was used in a episode of Zen, where she's like shrunken down and put into a bottle. And so we sold that for I put it on eBay, and I sold it for like $2,000.
Dude, you know what I got? They had this prop guy that was selling Moya, she had those maintenance robots.
Right.
Went through that.
DRDs.
Yeah.
DRDs.
Yeah, I got one. And yeah, it's in my closet. Like, I had to disassemble it, because I had an issue with it, and I had to take it apart. But yeah, I mean, I had a camera on it, and I would go to shows, and I would like have a remote control. It would go around the show, and it would have, and I had a video screen on the remote control where I would just watch like people's reactions as it was coming by.
Oh, that's probably worth a lot of money, dude. I mean,
well, the kit itself Like apparently the guy got a hold of one of them, and he made a mold of the body,
Uh-huh.
and he put a bunch of stuff in there for you to go ahead and make your own. He sold you the mold and all this other, not the mold, but one of the castings of the body, and then you just took it from there. And
So not licensed, or was it licensed?
I don't think it's licensed. I think he was just a prop guy, like just making extra money. But I got one, and it cost me like $250 for it.
Wow.
And I was like,
you must have been a diehard fan, because to have something like that.
I was a huge fan, dude. Like, I mean, and I always held out hope that they would bring it back, but they were never going to.
I don't think so, but I agree. It would have been. We're starting to rewatch, episode 1 again, and that was such a great series.
It was, dude. And you know what gave me hope is because you remember at the end of the last movie, like Crichton and I can't remember her name, but they had a baby.
Aaron soon.
Yeah, Crichton and Aaron had a baby, right? And they're like, the universe is yours. This is your playground. I was like, they're totally going to come back with Crichton's kid, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It just never happened. And I was like, God, that sucks.
I hated that ending where they left, where I think he was in a boat, and then it gets destroyed, and there was no finale until like 2 years later.
Yeah, I hated that too. I was like, no, come on. I was like, you can't do that. And yeah, but they killed off a lot of the characters before they ended the series. And the one that looked like Worf, I can't remember his name either, but he was that character design was one of the best character designs I've ever seen. Like, it was just badass. Yeah.
The guy with the huge sword.
Yeah. I always thought he was cool as shit. I was like, dude.
Dargo.
Yeah. Yeah, Dargo was badass. I love that character. There's that show. I don't know who created that show and came up with all those characters, but dude, they did an amazing job. Like, I mean, fuck Star Wars. I'm saying, like, that shit was just badass.
Yeah, I think it was Rockne O'Bannon who helped create Farscape, and he kind of did like Alien Nation before that. So he's kind of a sci-fi.
I was never a huge fan of Alien Nation. Like, I tried to get into it, but it just,
the movie was okay, but I didn't really watch the series.
So,
buddy, yeah.
Let's talk about this.
X-Farce Reloaded, baby. This is like basically my entry back into the comic book world, that we kind of want to test the waters and kind of get our feet wet. So it's a 48-page X-Men parody anthology. It's full color, no ads, and we have 7 individual stories in it that spoof everything from the 1960s X-Men all the way up to the current Jonathan Hickman House of X storyline.
I like that. The interior, like, I mean, that is, whoever you got, like, they did an amazing job replicating Kirby's style.
Thank you. I was looking at my page, and then I looked at your campaign, and you had kind of that page in Doc Salem that looked like it was an old vintage movie reel. It had like film, like little scratches in it and stuff. So our colorist said, I'm going to even put this browning effect on the Lee and Kirby spoof that makes it look like it's been in your closet.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, with Doc Salem, I wanted every flashback to be kind of looking like you're looking at the old Frankenstein movie. You know what I'm saying? Like the original.
That's what I felt like, man, when I read it. And I was kind of looking at your style and layouts, and I was saying, I see a little, I know maybe I'm wrong, but did you like Eric Larson a lot?
No, I was a big fan of Angel Medina.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Now I can see that. He was
there was like no rules. Like, he just, his characters are made of rubber bands.
Yeah, I think Angel was in Megaton. I think he was early.
He was. That's what I'm saying. Like, Megaton we actually totally skipped over Megaton, but Megaton was oh my God, the talent that went through Megaton was insane, wasn't it? I mean, you had Eric Larson, you had Angel Medina. I think even Rob Liefeld and Todd McFarlane went through Megaton too.
Liefeld had his first Youngblood artwork in in Megaton, and yeah, there was some really good guys. I think I'm in issue number 4 with Ken Meyer Jr. He was a friend of mine, and he had connected with Gary Carlson, who was the publisher of Megaton, and they let us do a story. So
I think they're still putting out Megaton, because I got contacted by a guy like a year or two ago, and I think he's just self-publishing it now. But we talked about having him like add Doc Salem in there, and it wasn't because of money. It was just because all those other guys came through Megaton, and I was like, it would be a blast to have one of my stories in Megaton, considering the history that Megaton has with creators,
Yeah.
And,
cool.
yeah, I was like, I was totally jazzed about it. The only problem was that I didn't want the first appearance of my character to be in Megaton, and that's really important to me, because as a comic collector, I want like my backers to be able to get the first appearance of that character, and that's
nice.
Just as a collector, from a collector's standpoint,
Yeah,
that's
I think you're probably one of the first people I've kind of talked to about Megaton with, on a show, because you were smart to go to Comic Vine, because a lot of these titles you're pulling up, I don't talk about them unless somebody asks me, because there's just so many between the parodies and the superheroes and the hamsters. So, but X-Farce is kind of the piece that we're working on now, and it's a labor of love. We don't have a very high goal. In fact, we hit our goal, which was under 2,000 today, but that doesn't mean we don't want your support. So please give us some more financial backing. But I'm blessed in that I don't have to make this my only source of income. So I'm kind of looking at it more as, giving it back to the fans so they can laugh.
You go big time. But is this also is this reprinting the original X-Force comic?
Good. That's a good question, Preston. So what we did was we took the 1992 Eclipse book, which was never in color, and then 10 pages from that Lee and Kirby spoof that was in the very first parody press book was called The Unfunny X-Cons, because X-Farce did so well. We just thought, well, if parody press launches on its own, why don't we kind of do another X-Men parody? So we did The Unfunny X-Cons with 3 different covers. And
yeah.
So,
hold on, let me put you on full screen. I got to remember to do that. I'm a horrible host.
All right.
I love that cover. That cover's badass.
So this is like more like the giant size X-Men variant, like from X-Men 94, that era.
Yeah.
We did like the Lee and Kirby throwback to number 1. And then we did a Jim Lee kind of take with, Wolverine and Cyclops. But so there's a 10-page story in this book that we thought would be cool to have in X-Farce Reloaded. So that's the one that you see with the browned artwork, but now it's all digitally colored.
Yeah, I love this. I think it's amazing. And I hope you get more backers. There's like the problem with, I think the biggest problem with modern comics now is that they've lost sight of who their audience is. Like they keep pitching to adults, which I'm glad. I'm totally cool with that, because I love comics. Even today, I collect. I'm still a huge collector of comics, but my tastes are more. I don't want to say refined, because I don't think I have refined taste. I like more adult stories now. Let's put it that way. Like Garth Ennis, and all, like those guys, like Alan Moore. But to be honest, I think they're not making comics to kind of involve, like, to kind of entice like younger people to kind of get into them. You know what I'm saying? And like we've talked to not just me, but friends of mine who have more of an American anime type of style, because I'll be straight up, my style is way too, like serious, I think. But like I have buddies that are really, really good, but their style is more of an American anime where it's kind of cartoony, and they approached Marvel editors. Marvel editors told them, well, at least one editor told them that they're not hiring cartoony styles anymore because it's not in, and I'm like, I'm like, what? Because I mean, have they forgotten like Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, like Eric Larson? All of these guys were some of the top earning like comic artists back in the day, you know, and they refused to hire people with cartoony styles. That's ridiculous, you know? And that's like, I like this because like you're I don't know I don't know much about the story, but this looks like something that would attract like kids, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because it's fun. You know, like,
for like 13 and older is what I've been kind of advertising. So it's something that you could give to I mean, there's a little bit of, you know, more mature humor in some of the gags, but for the most part, it's, you know, 13-year-old would be able to enjoy it. And
you can't go wrong with potty humor.
Right. Like, Cesspool. Yeah. We've got, that was like right when Deadpool kind of came out, was in the early 90s. And Mike Barron, I don't know if you know Mike Barron, he wrote one of our stories in the book.
I do, actually. Mike contacted me. We're going to be working on a project later on this year.
Awesome.
I'm a huge fan of Mike's, like from the Badger and Nexus and all that kind of stuff. That was some of the greatest like stories ever.
We're like brothers from different mothers because we like the same, like Godzilla, Badger, Nexus.
Grimjack, you know.
Grimjack, Star Slayer.
Yeah. Like I love all that kind. I mean, it's almost like I don't know why First Comics imploded. I have no idea.
They're still around. Actually, Zen and Steve Stern are working with First. So
really,
yeah,
First put out Grendel. You know what I'm saying? Like Grendel. Like Grendel was like one of the greatest comics ever.
Yeah,
and but yeah, I mean, for a while they disappeared, didn't they? Like, didn't they? Like,
I think they had like some financial restructuring they had to do. So yeah, we've got tiers, you know, starting at $25. There's a lot of original artwork people can buy if they want to buy interior pages. We have the Newt Mutants painting that's going to be on the back cover for sale. The trailer's funny. If you want to play the trailer, people kind of seem to like the you know, the animated thing that we did. But
I'm gonna play it, but I want to so you like one of my favorite guys in the community is Rob Willis. You know, he's got a badass style. I really like his stuff.
Yeah.
And you got a cover by Rob Willis.
Yeah, he's working on it for us, and he's hopefully we'll have it, you know, within the next week or so we can post it. And then Matt Yackey, he does a lot of coloring for Dan Fraga, is coloring the cover for us.
Nice. Yeah. That's another thing I like to see too, is like not just you, but also the other guys coming back, like Dan Fraga. And from what I heard, like Stephen Platt is planning on making an appearance too. You know, so
that would be great.
It would, you know. But okay, let's play this trailer and see what's going on here. Hold on, wait a minute. Let's make sure the audio is engaged. Can you hear that?
Yep.
My name is Professor Baldy, and I run a school for juvenile delinquents. But not just any delinquents. Mine are specially gifted. You might even call them mutants. Trust a few reformed ex-cons. Tangerine.
Am I the apple of your eye, Bubba?
Jeannie Gray. Beastie Boy. Oh, everybody dance now. Snow Cone.
Is it hot in here, or is it just me?
And their friends from X-Farce. Cable TV.
Eat remote control, frog face.
Garfarel. Meow. Dominoes.
This book has just the right amount of cheese.
And introducing the Newt Mutants. Beware the rest. Magneto. Mistress Piggy. And not at all breaking the fourth wall. Cesspool. Now, Heritage Press Comics is back with X-Farce Reloaded #1. Don't miss this extraordinary comics extravaganza with 7-fold color stories of marvelous mutant mayhem. Back this book today for awesome variant covers and original artwork tiers. 48 pages of action and hilarious hijinks by some of comics' funniest talents. Parity Press, making the world laugh again. Only on Indiegogo.
I really hope you do better than 1700 on this campaign. Like,
Thank you. I know.
It looks really good, and I got a feeling the only reason that you're at 1700 right now is because of Christmas. Yeah, and people get sick of me saying this, but that's the worst time to launch. Yeah, nobody wants to be selfish. They feel guilty if they try to buy something for themselves, and they have to buy stuff for everybody else. And
I understand. Yeah, I guess we'll probably extend beyond the 30, but you're right, man. It's a learning thing, I guess. You don't know until you try it, but that's okay, man. It can only get better, and like I said, it's not all about the money all the time. It would be nice, but it's going to be fun.
And these covers are so fucking awesome. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Serious. Like I love those I love vintage comics. You know what I'm saying? And like they're just seeing these covers, even though they're parodies. I love that you put the it looks worn out.
Yeah. That was fun. Mark Lewis is really talented. So it's 12, 13 different creators, and all the books are signed for free. So if you guys want to pick up just one of the issues, it's $25. And the print run on this is not going to be huge, so I think it'll be a collectible.
So you're not going to do a live field where you go ahead and you charge them for your signature or anything like that?
Yeah. I decided to kind of follow Billy Tucci's lead. He's got like a drop down box. Either you can say signature or no signature, and there's no extra charge.
Yeah, that kind of trips me out too. Like a lot of people, like I've had people contact me like, please don't sign my book. And I'm like, okay. I was at a show. It wasn't really a show. It was an in-store signing, and I had a book released, and my buddy, Tim Lottie, Tim was on the show the other day, and we were both there, and a guy comes in, he bought one of Tim's books, and he's like, and Tim, automatically signs the book. He signs it, and he puts it in a bag. He goes, hey, thanks for supporting me, and the guy's walking away. It was like, oh, can I get one without your signature on it? I dropped on the floor, dude. I was laughing so hard.
Oh man.
And he's trying to keep his cool. He's like, oh yeah, of course. Here, I got you covered.
We have such fragile egos.
I was crying, dude. It was so funny. So before we head out, Don, what else do you have in the works, like for the future, like after X-Farce?
Yeah, let me show you. You'll probably like this. I was kind of looking at your history. Was that book you did with Tim the Berserker not, or was that it, or what did you work on? I found his book like off of just rooting around in Indiegogo, and it got no notice, and I was like, why is this book like not? Why aren't people like eating this book up? Because I thought it was really good. I thought the page count was a little low, and the way he did the artwork, I thought that was weird. Like after I got him on the show and we started talking a little bit, he inspired me to go ahead and paint the next book I'm going to be doing, which is going to be Non-Devils, and the next self-published book that I'm going to do, because I'm not going to do another Doc Salem right away. That's why I gave everybody a pretty complete story with Doc Salem, because I knew I wasn't going to be coming back to it right away. So after seeing what he did with Berserker Knot, I was like, I gotta do that. But the way he did it really weird. Like he did it on typing paper, like he painted the whole book, like each panel on typing paper. And I was like, I'm not doing that. That's crazy. Why would you do that? He was like, well, I didn't want it to be precious. I was like, you didn't what? I was like, that's crazy, dude. Wow. That's crazy.
Oh, this is amazing.
This is well, when I saw your work, I said there's another character with the word berserk in it because Keanu Reeves has his Berserker book coming out, and so we decided we're going to do Beardzerker, which is going to be a parody of Keanu, and so this is the cover that Kanan White and Matt did for us for the for Berserker Beardzerker.
That's badass. I like that.
Yeah.
At first, I thought it was Cyberfrog. I was like, Cyberfrog.
I kind of getting that, but everybody should know the hornets are actual real hornet size. They're not like 4 or 5 feet. It just looks from the perspective of this cover, it looks like they're a lot bigger than
is that an alien cat right here?
That cat is actually the basic premise is this is a kind of a rock and roll Rip Van Winkle hero. He's been in suspended animation for like
I can dig that
40 years. And so the government wakes him up, but they've been programming his mind with all the latest combat software and skills. So he wakes up, but he's still got the brain of like a 16-year-old, Ted Logan from Bill and Ted.
Oh,
but he's totally tough. And he's got his axe is actually a guitar that's powered by the rock gods.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my God. Who you got illustrating this?
Actually Bill Mouse, who has been, a long time vet, he's doing the inside.
Nice.
And then we're working with Billy Tucci to probably have like a variant she cover.
Oh, this is going to be amazing. Like this, seriously is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one because it's more of a.
Is this going to be more like heavy metal? Or
it's definitely the cat that you're pointing to. We he's his sidekick, and we call them Cat Stevens because it's
That's badass, dude. Like I really like that. That's
we might have to get you to do a pinup or a cover.
Of course, like there's no question. The so is this going to be? Are you doing this like directly after you get finished with X-Farce? Or
okay. I already wrote the script, and then Bill's got a Near X crowdfunding thing that he's just wrapping up, and then this is the next project that we're doing. So 32-page color book, and we'll basically take all that we've learned from this X-Farce campaign and hope that the next one gets better and progress as we go along. But looking at your stuff, it inspires me. I love coming on these streams and getting the energy from you younger creators. It just I think that's what feeds. We feed each other by our creativity and looking at our work.
I'm not that young, Don. I'm older than you. I'm way older. No, I'm kidding.
Dude. No, I'm a grandfather, man.
This is badass. Like I can't wait for this kind of shit to come out. I mean, no, I'm being serious. Like I like this. I think I might like this better than X-Farce.
Yeah, you well. I mean, it's definitely got a lot of action and humor, and I mean he has to basically solve modern day problems in a very creative way. So
let me ask you another question. Like you have such a huge body of work. Are you, with the exception of Hamsters, like do you own the rights to everything else, or is some of that shared? Or
let's see. Well, Berserker I created, but Bill drew him, so I guess in a sense we're kind of co-creators, but it was my concept. So I do own him, and X-Farce was my creation. But a lot of the parodies that we did, one that I think I'd like to bring back is the Pummeler, which is the Sam Keith got this awesome cover of a ripped Punisher dude, but he's got like a huge gun, but there's like cute little furry animals on the.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, and so to have that digitally colored, I think fans would like that. And
so what I'm asking is, are you going to ever run maybe an Indiegogo in the future where you reprint all of your old stuff? And
it's a thought. I don't know. I think I'm just kind of seeing what the response is to this book. But maybe you're right. Maybe doing it in black and white might be a little more economical, because I know the price point, it's not affordable for everybody. And I would love to maybe do something that's a little more cost friendly. What do you find like selling digital is you've done that like most of your campaigns?
I do a digital tier for every campaign. And the only reason I keep it around is because international buyers, like it's cheaper on shipping, because shipping to Australia, I mean, it's like $25 to ship, or $30 to ship to Australia.
Right.
Now, I don't know why. Like, I think it's ridiculous how much it costs to get stuff over there, or anywhere else. I mean, it's crazy expensive. But one thing I've been kicking around, because I was watching, I check out Cartoonist Kayfabe a lot, and Ed Piskor, he's got a comic called Red Room, and what he's planning on doing with that is selling it as a like giving it away as a not giving it away, but selling it as a digital book, but selling it at the same price that you would sell a normal book, just having it formatted to where you can print it out on your end.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? Like off of your printer, not like you go to a printer and they print out an actual comic, but where you can like take a piece 8.5 by 11, print out the pages, staple it in the middle, and then you got a zoom, And I kind of like that. And I mean, it'd be easy to go ahead and watermark it. That way people will know like it's a black market book, and you can't like not to stay away from it if people did try to pirate it.
that would take a lot of ink, man.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too, is like everybody obsesses about pirating, but to me, I mean, you can't really stop it. If somebody wants to pirate your book, they're going to do it. I mean, it's a digital age,
I see Hamsters like in these mega file things, you can search a PDF and someone scanned everything.
Well, I've run into the same thing with Rockabilly Road Trip, which is one of my other properties. Like it's we've been printing that since 2006, so it's made its rounds. I mean, even though we never really did a digital file of Rockabilly Road Trip until recently, like people scan the book in. And they just go ahead and scan it in and just put it into a PDF and file share it wherever they want. I mean, you can't really stop that,
I might just have to talk to my wife, because she was a little reluctant to do a digital tier, but I've seen you and the Buckler and some other guys doing the digital, and it seems to me like it makes financial sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's $10 or whatever you charge for a digital tier, and there's no print cost. You see what I'm saying? Like it's just the digital file that you share out. But yeah, I mean, I'm because I'm a collector, I don't see the point of a digital tier. You see what I'm saying? So I'm kind of biased when it comes to that, but that's the collector in me saying, I can't file this in my long box.
Right.
Or I can't get this, put it in. How are you going to put a digital file in a sleeve and, with a backboard and throw it in?
There's that aesthetic, that heartwarming feeling you get holding a floppy comic that you don't
exactly
holding a tablet.
And you know what I'm coming from too, because you're a collector. That's one thing where we can see eye to eye on this. But there's a lot of people who don't collect that don't mind getting a digital copy. And from what I understand, like anime, like the manga comics, they pretty much crack the code as far as like the separation between digital and physical. They treat them both the same. And from what I understand, they found that because they do that, like people who are exposed to digital usually turn to a physical copy after a while if they really like the book that they're reading, because they want to collect it at that point. And so yeah, I mean, I think maybe we should relax a little bit on the pirating aspect and stop trying to control something that we can't control.
Okay, that's good, man. I like that input. You have a lot of wisdom, for sure.
Us old guys have to stick together, Don.
You were fun, man. I really enjoyed coming on your show.
Yeah, we can end it. We're a little bit over an hour. And usually there's a couple other people in here and we're watching chicks doing aerobics and all kinds of stuff like that. But today's gonna be a pretty light day. And I think we covered, and honestly, I didn't want to do that because you're such an interesting character. You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole purpose. That's the whole reason why I set up this the Legends of Indie Comics, you know, to get people like you, people like Joe Vigil, you know, and I've been trying to get Tim Vigil on here, but it's a pain in the ass, you know, because the problem is a lot of guys that were part of that era don't know how to use their computer or their phone, and they have no idea what streaming is.
Yeah, man. We don't know who PewDiePie is, and we don't know how to stream. Exactly.
But yeah, so that's when, like, when you reached out, I was like, yeah, you know, we do a deep dive on Don, dude, because Don's Don's got history here.
Thanks.
You know?
I look forward to chatting with you again, and, you know, maybe we'll reach out if once we get Beard Zerker underway. I think your style would be great on that.
Oh, we could do a drawing stream, like me and you. We'll just do some sketch cards and get rid of them on your campaign.
That'd be great.
But I want everybody to know the link to Don's current project, X-Farce, is in the description. So please go in there, click on it, check it out. Don's put a ton of work into that shit, and as soon as I get some cash, I'm gonna go ahead and back it.
Thanks, brother.
And
my side,
yeah,
waiting for my $600 Trump money to come in.
Yeah, I know, right? I think I got that. I think I got it. I was like, my old lady was like, "Have you checked your bank account?" I was like, "Nah, I don't check that. It's depressing." And she's like, "Well, you better check it because I got my $600 from the government." I was like, "They passed that? I didn't even know they passed it. I thought it was still like they were fighting over it or whatever." But yeah, dude, I mean, it came in. So, but that doesn't really do a lot. Yeah. $600. But yeah, so Don's got a book. It's called X-Farce, and you guys should back it.
Thanks, bro.
Cesspool in there.
Yeah. Well, you have a happy New Year, man. We'll chat again some other time.
Excellent. All right, guys, we're out of here.
All right. Bye-bye.